Yo, Philly 254 living life. Back at it. Now, once again, we are on another episode of How Well Does It Play? And the game we are looking at today is Redfall. Now, I'm gonna be real. This one was a rough one. I'm not gonna lie. This was a rough one. So, quick recap on how this whole series works is basically it's not a full in-depth review. I may share my thoughts and whatnot, but I'm not gonna go into a full breakdown of every single thing about the game. Just kind of give a quick overview, but the main purpose of it is what changes, if any, did I have to make in order for the game to even run properly. And yeah, some experimenting and some changes had to be made because this game was rough, definitely rough. So if anyone knows anything about this particular game, I can say you already know that it came out the gates feeling a bit bad, feeling a bit under the weather. Let's just put it that way. And on the Steam Deck, yeah, I felt it as well. Even though it had a day one patch, a lot of the reviews that just came out literally on the day of its drop, its release, were kind of based before the day one patch. And then some of the reviewers kind of mentioned that, hey, it got a little better after the day one patch, but it still has some issues. It definitely has some issues. So what changes did I have to make? First things first. Now, I went on ProtonDB to kind of get some ideas because it was pretty bad. A whole lot of stuttering. Even on the Bethesda logo and everything, it was stuttering. So I had to go on ProtonDB to kind of get some ideas of some things that might have, some other people may have done. So someone did mention they had it on Proton Experimental. I did that. That didn't work out well. It ran worse than it did before. It was crashing on Proton Experimental. So I just, as of right now, I left it on Proton 8.0-2. All right. Now, as far as in-game settings, I turned off the motion blur, turned off the anti-aliasing, and set the post-processing to low. Did all those, and that did kind of help out on the stuttering. Did not completely get rid of it. There was still some stuttering, some pauses throughout the gameplay, but it wasn't as bad. And I did not get any. Well, I think I got one crash, so I did still get one crash, but it wasn't going crazy like it was before. Now here's the thing about when I mentioned the stuttering. The whole stuttering issue is also, I don't think it's just Steam Deck related. Like, I don't think there was too much I could do about the stuttering issue. I mean, it probably was worse. Don't get me wrong, because this game does not feel like it's optimized very well. But it definitely was not just Steam Deck related. Other people on PC consoles were mentioning the same thing. I don't know about people who play it on is it on? I think it's on Game Pass. If it is, I don't know about people playing in the cloud at the very least. But definitely on consoles and PCs, regular PCs, it definitely had some stuttering, had some performance issues. Let's put it that way. And on the Steam Deck, that Steam Deck was not exempt from that whole situation. It had some stuttering issues, some performance issues as well. Again, I made those specific changes, and it did improve. So I feel like some of those were based around the Steam Deck, but they did not completely go away. So take that as you want. Now, as far as gameplay, yo, man, I feel like this game, it's like they had a good idea. You know, I like it. It had a good idea, but it was not executed properly. It's like all the pieces individually, if you look at each piece individually, they seem great, but they weren't. Each individual piece was not executed properly, and then when you put them as a whole, the whole game just kind of suffers from that. You know, it's kind of got an open world vibe to it. I think it is pretty much open world pretty much. You roam around, you take down vampire nests. There are also human dudes. I can't remember what they're called now, but they're human dudes who are kind of against you guys as well. You kind of take them down as well. They're armed with guns and whatnot, and it's just, you know, everything's just kind of rough, man. You can kind of expand your camp out by taking over different nests, or I guess you can call them safe houses. You're picking up, you know, certain things, certain items, supplies and whatnot. You're taking on different vampires with different abilities. Think of, you know what? It's first person, by the way. Think of Dead Island 2, which I recently reviewed. Think of how Dead Island 2 is, but with vampires and not as good, and with more guns, I guess. Dead Island 2's whole thing is not just guns. It's more, it's about a lot of different things, especially the melee combat. This one is more based around the guns, but it has some of the whole environmental situations going on. You can shoot a battery, and the battery kind of explodes in voltage and kind of shocks the vampires or humans, and kind of helps you out on that, help you out on that note. Same thing with this. For some reason, there's propane tanks just laying around. You can shoot those. Same thing. Cars are laying around. You can go in the trunks and grab them and get supplies from out of the cars. Some of them are locked. You got to get lock picks or whatnot. It has a lot of that same vibe. It's just more open world and not as fun. But I can see how it could be fun if properly executed. The graphics, I don't know, man. The graphics, I'm not a fan of that. The graphics, I feel like the graphics are not worth a $60 game. I think it was like $69 or $70 game. The graphics weren't really worth that. I feel like for as much as I spent, I kind of expected some better graphics. At the very least, if the gameplay was going to be as rough as it was, or the performance at least was going to be as rough as it was, the graphics could have been better. I would rather, but in all honesty, I would have rather had the graphics that they have right now with solid gameplay. Don't get me wrong. But if the performance was going to be this rough, graphics could have been better. Playing it, there are moments where I'm playing it and I kind of forget, because after a while you kind of ignore the little stutters that happen just from playing it. And you kind of get in a little bit of a groove, and it can kind of get kind of fun. That's why I say it felt like everything just wasn't pulled together properly. Because it gets kind of fun after a while, but at the end of the day, it's just things weren't pulled together right. I don't know how else to say it. For example, when I say things aren't pulled together right, it has co-op mode, very similar to Dead Island 2, right? Because I'm comparing the two in a way. It has co-op mode. So on Dead Island 2, you play co-op with a random stranger or a friend or whatever, and y'all go through a specific area, and no matter who's hosting, once that area is cleared, it's cleared for both of you. You're good. You're great. You keep it moving. I've done that a couple of times myself on Dead Island 2. This game, I couldn't find a game, to be honest with you, to anyone to play with, but it very clearly lets you know that if the progression is only going to be saved for the host player. So whoever's the one hosting the game, they get the progression. They go up to the next level, that kind of thing. The people who are helping them out, I think they get to keep the experience and whatnot, but when they go back to their game, they're still back at whatever square 1, 2, or 3 they were at before they started playing. So they have to replay that entire scenarios again on their own, which is dumb. That's horrible. Why would I do that twice? So I don't know. It's, and I feel like the game is kind of it feels like it's really built for multiplayer in a way. They say it's built for single player, but I feel like multiplayer, it seems like that was kind of the way to go with this game. There's a lot of situations, this is just a me thing, I would just fuck around and find out. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd run in there and I'd see like maybe a couple of dudes or a vampire or two, and just run in there gunning and get smoked, get lit up, and I feel like, I sure wish I had somebody here to watch my back while I went in there and did something stupid like that. I don't know. The game does have a day-night cycle to it. It feels like it is a natural day-night cycle. It's not based on, scenarios or events that occur in the game and then it all of a sudden turns nighttime or daytime. It feels actually pretty natural, like it turns night and day, which I would hope that would be what it is, the case, because it is a game about vampires. Except I've seen the vampires in the daytime. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not too up on the lore of the game. The actual story is kind of played out through still cutscenes. So when I say it's like little graphics that are just still graphics that kind of has a voiceover over it. I never like that, man. Just use the in-game graphics or something, man. Just give me something. Give me an actual cutscene to show me what's going on. Kind of give me something to work with. But the vampires, there are vampires out in the daytime. I feel like it's fewer of them, but I have seen a few out in the daytime though. Nighttime is when it can get nuts. You run up on some of those human dudes. Oh man, it's only 1 or 2 of those human dudes. Next thing you know, you're getting jumped by like 4 vampires, and those vampires can be pretty rough to take out. They bullet sponges, and then you got to go stake them when you shoot them. So that's a whole thing. You got I think it's 4 or 5 different characters with different traits and abilities you can play with. Choose your person that kind of feels that you feel like kind of is your spiritual animal and run with it from there. And I don't know, man. What I say, this is a buyer pass, man. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna be real with you. I'd say pass. In all honesty, I purchased this game because I knew some people would be interested in it, and I bought it. And my whole idea, because you know Steam has that 2-hour window you can refund it, was I was going to review it and refund it if it sucked, if it absolutely sucked, because I knew it had a strong possibility of sucking for some of the previews. I played it, and it sucked. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn off my Steam Deck or exit out the game when because I still had to get some more footage the next day. And unfortunately, the game kept playing past my 2-hour window while the Steam Deck was just chilling. So it is what it is. I ain't tripping. I would definitely say this is a pass, at least until, if you want to keep it, if you're interested in it, keep an eye on it. See if they drop some more updates to kind of improve the gaming situation. Some games do come back to life, but at the end of the day, and if they don't do that, man, you're not missing nothing. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a nice try, but it was a swing and a miss. Anyway, if you like more Steam Deck news, walkthroughs, gameplays, how-tos, tutorials, like and subscribe. Cruise through the playlist. And I'm out.